Hey, everybody, it's me, Brandon.
Yeah,
I'm not
and
Brandon.
It's me, Jon.
How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm pretty good, man. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I feel like that wasn't a good intro, but we're going to keep rolling with it. So we are in July now, which is 7 months into the year. 6 months have elapsed. And we've played quite a few video games in that time. And one problem with trying to recall all your favorite games in a single year is by the time the year's over, you've probably forgotten a bunch of stuff that's happened. Mm-hmm. And so recency bias sets in, and a lot of games that are deserving of shout-outs probably don't get their shout-outs. So what we want to do today is not only just evaluate how we're feeling in the year so far, but we want to ensure that those games get their shout-out. So you and I have a list of 5? Are we doing 5 games?
Yeah, let's do 5.
Yeah, let's do
Let me
5.
make a slight adjustment.
So we're going to go through these. Well, I guess we get as much time as we want to, but probably fairly rapidly. And we're just going to have a little breezy talk about how we're feeling this year. So I don't know if you're ready, Brandon. I want you to give me your 5th favorite game of 2024 thus far.
My 5th game of 2024 thus far is... I'm stuck between 2, but I think I'm confident in saying so far that it's Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree.
Okay, we're sharing the 5th game, so let's just roll with it.
Oh.
That's exactly what I had.
Okay, good. So I would probably put this higher. Like, when Elden Ring first came back, that was my game of the year. However, I'm still only like 5, 6, 7 hours into the DLC. So I don't have a completely well-rounded opinion of it yet. But it's more Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And it's a refined Elden Ring experience. And because of the way it's set up with the Shadow Tree fragments that act as like its own separate leveling system, I've seen people say this, and I kind of agree. It's basically a sequel to Elden Ring.
It's huge, yeah. It is one of the biggest DLCs I think I've ever played in my life. And one thing I really like about it compared to the base Elden Ring is the level design is very layered, very vertical. In the main game that you had, like you could like see off into the distance and see these mountains and areas of interest, but this time there is a lot more will to explore because of how layered the design is. And it is just massive. There's so much to see. Like as you say, it's basically a sequel. And if you sleep on this because you think it's just DLC, I think you're basically missing out on Elden Ring 2 over here. They put about 2 years into this, and it shows.
This is not on the same level of DLCs that FromSoft has done before. This is just a full-on follow-up to Elden Ring. It plays more into the story of Elden Ring, so it's the same lore. You can just keep enjoying it. And you use the same characters that you had in the base game. But like I said, because of that separate leveling system, the builds that you go in with don't matter as much for damage negation and damage dealt. Obviously, your build is going to determine what kinds of weapons you use and whether you use magic or summons and that kind of stuff. But you're going to get curb stomped if you don't engage with the Shadow Tree fragments or the Ash fragments. The game is encouraging you to explore to level up, and I think a lot of people are struggling to kind of reconcile that if they didn't play the original game by exploring.
Yeah.
It's asking you to do something that's a little different. You have an arsenal of weapons and Ashes of War and things that you can use that you already have from the base game. So I think this is a smart way to get you to engage with the game's world. Knowing that you already have all that stuff.
Yeah, I forget which outlet it was, but there was a review that said, like, you've got to really grind up before you're ready for this DLC, and that's not true. It basically has its own progression in there. It doesn't matter, like, you can be the highest level, you can be on New Game plus, which would usually make it harder for yourself, but that doesn't matter. You have to really play with the new progression systems to get better in this game. Like, it doesn't matter if you're level 400 or 150. You're basically at the same level. It doesn't matter how big your stats are. You've got to play with what this new DLC gives you, and it's a really clever way of balancing things.
Yeah. I love that Miyazaki, when he first revealed the map size, he was like, "Oh, it's comparable to Limgrave," but he failed to mention that, like you said, it's very vertical. So like, maybe it is comparable to the size of Limgrave, but it's got all of this stuff up here and all this stuff down here.
Yeah, absolutely. But shall we move on to the next game?
Yeah. What's your number 4?
Yes, so I was actually debating between this and Elden Ring's DLC, but I thought I'd give Elden Ring the number 5th place, given it's not like an entirely brand new thing. It's building on what we have already. So my 4th one goes to Penny's Big Breakaway. I adored this game. It is mechanically just brilliant. I love the feeling of momentum. Like, that team gets how to make a platformer just move. There's so many great ways to keep that momentum going, and I love the combo system about not really ever stopping. Just keep going with like move to move to move to move. And the level design's great with so many different ways to play. Like, there's different missions that you can. Like, you can play it slowly and do these missions for people, play it like a regular platformer, or you can play it like a speedrunner and just sort of just keep putting all these different moves together to move through the level as fast as you can. There was the lead behind Fabraz, who did Demon Turf, coined the word expressive platformer for games like Mario Odyssey and their game Demon Turf. And it basically means a platform that allows you to move how you like. It has a core level design, but you can use the movement systems to get through that. And that is Penny to a T. You know, those core like designs are that's a playground for getting around. And that's how I play Penny. And I just thought it was such a cool game. And when I played it, I was pretty convinced that no game would really top it this year, because I just loved everything about the base gameplay. But there are a few games that I think I'll put ahead of it. But what a great game there.
That's a game that I would qualify for that most recent video I did. Shameless plug. It's a game that I didn't really give as fair of a shake as I think I should have. Like, I played through, I forget how the level structure is, but I think I played through the first, like, first world, or however you would break that up.
Sure.
And I think I was struggling with the controls a little bit, kind of figuring out how to string those moves together and actually play it in an expressive way. And that could entirely be skill issue. Like, I fully admit to that. So I'd like to give it another try, because like, I can see what that game is to other people, and I know that's something that would appeal to me. But maybe I just didn't play it in the right context. So I want to give it another go.
There's a learning curve for sure. I think if you play Penny, not the wrong way, but there's a way to play it slow. Like, Penny is a slow game if you don't quite get the systems. But once they click with you, once it just feels natural to string all those moves together, Penny is such a delight to play. And I'm basically here for anything that team does. I think they're some of the most creative in the business. And I'm very happy that, like, I loved Sonic Mania, but I'm happy they get to make their own things now. And if Penny is just a glance of what they're capable of for the future, then I think they're just going to go down as some of the best in the biz.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what they do next, if they continue building on Penny, or if they just, again, make something brand new.
Yeah.
We need more games like this.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
But what is your number 4, though?
So again, it's been a struggle. Like, there's a lot of games that I've played that I really enjoyed, and I want to make sure everything gets its due. But I also want to stay true to myself. And because of that, number 4 for me is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Okay.
I love the original game. I'm pretty confident that everyone listening loves the original game. But at its core, it is still Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, which is not a bad thing. It makes some improvements in some very key areas, like that directly address criticisms of the original, especially when it comes to backtracking and fast travel. The new fast travel system is excellent. I think it's really well thought out. They really made sure to pay attention to game flow, and even things that were in the later half of the game that were meant to kind of play as a gag, they still play as a gag, but it's a lot less mean than the first go around. But yeah, it's a great story. It the partners in the Thousand Year Door are so memorable, and they're really engaged in the plot in a way that they're not in the original Paper Mario. But I think this replay of Thousand Year Door did point out one thing to me that I wasn't really privy to when I played it as a kid, and that's that the level design is not quite as open or interesting as the original Paper Mario.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hallway, and I think that's fine. The locales themselves are actually cool and interesting, but yeah, lots of hallway, not a lot of open space.
No little spinny move like the original.
No, it's a bit of a shame going back. I played Paper Mario, the original, just leading up to this game because I like to do that, give myself as much context as possible. Not that I haven't played it, just fresh in my mind, I mean. But yeah, outside of that, like, the battle system's so much better than the original game. There's a lot of variety there. There are a couple new things to engage with that I won't get into here, but I did really enjoy those things when I got to them. And it's beautiful. It is a beautiful version of the Thousand Year Door. And I don't know that I have much reason to go back to the GameCube version outside of maybe the push to 60 FPS and just preservation factor. If I'm going to play Paper Mario casually, I'll probably just play this version.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a great game. I still love it. And I'm glad that we're back on the right track with this series.
If it weren't for it being a remake, this could easily be the best game this year. It is incredibly good. And if it's your first time playing, then I hope you're having a blast. But we can talk up aspects of the original. Like, there's some parts the original does do better, but the Thousand Year Door is so full of personality. Whether it's the NPCs, the towns you go to, the sort of dungeon areas, it is just so full of charm. Every aspect of that game is just brimming with personality, and it does exceed the original in a lot of ways in that regard. But the remake's just stunning. The way that the music changes depending on the area, and there are some tunes I do prefer in the original sound, which is thankfully also an option in here. But I stuck with the new ones just because I loved to hear how diverse it could be with its soundtrack and all the new things it's added. And it makes some music less repetitive too. You're not hearing the same battle track throughout the entire game, and I really enjoyed that.
I love the energy that a lot of those battle tracks bring, especially my favorite, and I can say this confidently, my favorite version of the battle track in the entire game is the one on the road to Far Outpost. It has no reason to be so good.
Yeah.
But it's such a wonderful vibe. I'm excited for people who haven't gotten there yet to hear it. It's a really good version of the song. And it's cool because once you've encountered music in the game, you can then listen to it in the game's player, which is great since there are so many more tracks in this game than the original. There's music in places that the original game didn't have, even in story sequences. So yeah, it's just a very refined version of the original game, and if you've never played the Thousand Year Door, this is an excellent way to do it.
Yeah, and like the downgrade to 30 FPS. Like, obviously, I think it is a downgrade, but once I was used to it, which took moments, it was barely a thought in my mind.
It doesn't matter that much, yeah.
But moving on, though, my number 3 is Unicorn Overlord. Is this anywhere on your list, or is this a fresh one?
This is not a game I've even played.
Oh, okay. So from here on, I'm done with digital games, so I can hold what I'm talking about to the camera. I loved this. I'm not like the biggest strategy guy in the world, so it takes something special for one to really land with me. And Vanillaware never misses with their art. There's some of the greatest out there, and they are creating just these gorgeous pieces of art in both the spectacle of these arenas, but also the character designs are incredible. And all the stories and characterizations are just some of the best in the genre. I just found myself just engorged into this world. It was just so beautiful. And it's one of those great handheld games, too. Like, this is kind of sacrilege because the music's so good, but a lot of the time I'd just be sitting with my family with the music off on my Switch and just kind of playing it in the background while doing other things. It's just kind of the perfect game for that. But yeah, this is just a wonderful, wonderful game. And it'll probably be something that will go down as like one of the biggest hidden gems of the Switch, I think. In like 10 years from now, I think this would be rocking like some of the top spots for hidden gems on the Switch. And I think I'd grab it now before the price skyrockets, because I can see this being a very expensive one in time. But it's well worth the money, well worth the time investment. Just one of my favorite games in this genre now.
As someone who also doesn't engage with a lot of strategy games, like I think Fire Emblem, honestly, is probably the extent of how deep I go. Maybe something like XCOM, which is like the other side of the spectrum, but still. How accessible would you say this is to someone like me?
Pretty accessible. There's depth in there for sure, and you probably will struggle if you don't engage with all its systems. But it teaches it well, and I think one thing this genre often struggles with is you get quite cardboard characters, which doesn't necessarily it doesn't really encourage you to want to keep going to for them. Whereas this, I think that's just some of the best out there. So yeah, I'd say while there is a learning curve to it, I think it teaches it pretty well and motivates you to keep going very well with how good all the surrounding elements are. So if you're like a rookie to this genre, I think this is a pretty good entry point.
I've heard so much praise for this game, so it's definitely on my radar. Not something I typically engage with, but that's something I'm trying to be better about. So I'm definitely gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, when we got a sponsor spot for Unicorn Overlord, I was like, I can't. We've actually got like one of the greatest games this year as our sponsor. I was really happy for that. But let's move on. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a game that I think you were more excited for than I was leading into it. And that's Rette the Jewel of Overlord.
Oh, okay. I'm happy we mentioned this one.
This is such a cool game. It's a 2D side-scrolling adventure in the style of the Zelda CDI games. It is fully committed to making the game as authentic to that CDI experience as possible. And it absolutely nails it. Yeah. It's so good. In addition to like the silly cutscenes that have inconsistent art and questionable voiceover, like the actual gameplay is quite fun. There's a jumping and swinging the sword just like in Zelda CDI, but I actually actively look forward to finding the new abilities and upgrades, because the game is well designed first. Like, they made a fun game to play and then built all of the CDI-isms on top of that. And I think that's a perfect way to approach a game like this.
We're seeing in live audience, is it so good it's bad? And no. I think
No.
I think they understand the CDI, like the vibe of the CDI, and they make something good out of it. Like, it's just genuinely high quality. Like, it's not even a parody as such. I mean, of course it is a parody, but like, it doesn't lean into the negatives. Like, you genuinely get a pretty fun story out of it. The gameplay is very, very good. This was nearly on my list. I was struggling between this and Elden Ring, and I was thinking, like, should I have a DLC on there? But I think Elden Ring deserved it. But Rette was very close onto my list too. It's just a brilliant little game.
I love the commitment to the bit with this game. Wasn't the remind me of the name of the developer? I need to look it up.
I know what you're gonna say. It's left my mind, but the abbreviation. I'll let you say it. But
I need to pull it up.
It's good.
Okay, so the developer's name is CDI Software, which is perfect.
Yeah. I didn't realize this at all. Yeah, seedy as in like the word seed. It's so good.
Oh man, it's so funny too, like playing through the game and then experiencing the cutscenes, because you'll get cutscenes just talking to random NPCs in the main town, in the levels. They'll have like needs, you have to bring this NPC a certain item, but it's not entirely clear. You kind of have to suss it out as you play through the game. But I love the inconsistency in the art between cutscenes. Like, they very intentionally made sure that it was not even across the board. and it was done by different artists, because it just helps lead to that kind of janky, not well thought out experience of the CDI games while being very intentional to do that. It's so good.
It's magnificent a game like this exists. Like, someone felt so passionately about the CDI that they wanted to not, like, it does justice to the CDI in a way, but it's also just making something really good out of a joke. And it's one of those, we don't get games like this very often. And what a wonderful game.
Yeah, I so much love to the devs of this game. There's clearly a lot of love and passion put into it. It's not a super long experience, so definitely give it a shot. You could probably beat it in an afternoon and then go for speed runs, because that's an element to the gameplay. Yeah, give it a shot. I think you'll love it.
Yeah. Well, my number 2 is Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble.
Heck yeah, man.
This is Super Monkey Ball 3 by all means. We've done a video about this recently. Don't let the review scores get to you. A lot of the review scores are very hung up on the battle mode, which I will put my hands up and say that battle mode is not very good. But the core mode is magnificent. It is some of the best Monkey Ball has ever been. And the new mechanic, the spin dash, is just... There's no words for how good it is. It's an extension of Monkey Ball. It
feels essential.
Yes. They've been trying to find like a new way to bring Monkey Ball forward, whether it be like the jump from Banana Blitz. But now they've found a way to really move into that momentum by letting you just spin wherever you want to. And there's so many great utilities to it. Like, you can use it just to throw yourself off the edge and get a big burst of speed, and that's great for speed runs. But you can also use it as a drift. Like, if you don't want to lose your speed, you can just drift around a corner with it. Or if you're falling off an edge, you can push yourself in the other direction to save yourself. It's such a versatile move, and I don't really want to see a Monkey Ball game without the spin dash from now on. And I was doing as part of our Patreon, you can play games with us. And with Joy, I was playing online with her. And she was around World 4 when we started, and we could just play her campaign together online. So we were progressing her story just together. And that was brilliant. You can play the entire game with someone else, whether it's local or online, up to 4 people. And it's great. The new character palette is so cool too. Like, I hate basically all the additions to the Monkey Ball cast that aren't the originals, but palette is really, really great and one of my favorite characters in the game. And I can just see myself playing this for years to come, just learning the strategies. And I can't wait to see speedrunners when they finally fully understand the game and have learned it and get their hands on some outrageous runs, because Monkey Ball 1 and 2 speedruns are some of the best you can watch, and I think this is going to be even better with that spin dash. So yeah, one of my favorite games this year.
Shoutouts to SGDQ, by the way, which is happening right now.
Yes.
If you've never watched a Monkey Ball speedrun, they're excellent. So I don't know if they have any on the schedule, but if they do, make sure to check them out. I bought this just a couple days ago, almost entirely just on your recommendation, John. Not that I'm not a Monkey Ball fan. I didn't really play the GameCube games back then. Honestly, my first Monkey Ball game that I purchased myself was the one right before this one. Was that Banana Mania?
Yeah, Mania.
Which I really enjoyed. I'm glad that it exists. It gives me an opportunity to play through the original games. Maybe not in a perfect way, but you know, it's there in a compilation, and I have access to it, so it's got a lot of value for that. But I bought this game, and I was expecting to enjoy it, maybe on the same level as Banana Mania. But when I launched it and started playing, I was immediately taken aback at how full and polished the experience is. Like, they kind of leaned into this big yellow and black bold design for the last 2 games on Switch, which, while I like, you know, there's only so much character in that. But this feels like a proper game with a beautiful menu, and, you know, you're on the beach and you can switch between the camera views. There's so many settings that you can change. Like, there's so much care put into the player experience for this game, and I was not ready for that. I was honestly really impressed. And then I started playing the adventure mode with it's got full cutscenes, and the level designs are really good. Like, because there's no like live system like the original 2 games on GameCube, it's a little more accessible to someone like me who has never really played these games that hard. But I found myself getting really into playing the game, trying to complete every challenge on every stage. I've been doing it on the way. So like I'm in World 4 right now. I finished World 3, and I would not go past the stage until I had mastered it. And I'm finding that to be really fun to do. Especially when you use the spin dash to get some of those fast times that they are asking for. Like, they're very clearly trying to get you to try speedrun tactics on a lot of these courses where, you know, you either, like, fall into the goal from above or quickly fling yourself there by using the speed boost. It's super, super fun and really satisfying when you finally nail a level like that after trying for a few times. You have made a new Monkey Ball fan. I am seriously enjoying myself.
This is why I don't mind that the battle mode isn't very good. Because just speak about that a moment. They cut it to 30 FPS. It's often way below that. It doesn't feel good to control. But like usually, the first 2 Monkey Balls, not only are they great games, but they are great party games like Monkey Target and everything. However, with Banana Rumble, even if you disregard that there's nothing like Monkey Target, I think they've put more into the base game than they ever have before. There's so many reasons to replay, and the difficulty curve isn't outrageous. Like 1 and 2 on GameCube are very, very hard games. This one, it can be challenging, but I like that it kind of encourages you to make your own difficulty. If you play the normal way, you probably will make it with relative ease for the most part. There are like extra levels after the story which do get harder, but when you're just playing on your own, it's just kind of normal. But if you want to use the spin dash and try and make your own path, again, as my audience is saying, expressive, make your own expressive gameplay, that's where you invite your own challenge, and that's how I kind of like to play, just kind of using the stages as my own obstacle course to do these stupid things with the spin dash. And I don't think there's a game that controls better than this one this year. It just feels good to move in Banana Rumble.
It's worth noting for me that when I bought this game, I'm still playing through Elden Ring, and I primarily play through that game co-op, by the way. My friend and I, you know, we're big into Monster Hunter together. He really likes playing the Souls games co-op because that's how he started back in Demon Souls. So he kind of brought me in with Elden Ring, and we've been playing through that, and I'm finding Monkey Ball to be really attractive and like kind of pulling me away. It's shocking to me. This game's really good.
Yeah, it's so good. But we shouldn't linger on this for too long. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is a game that I put well over 100 hours into, and I nearly forgot about it, and that's such a shame because I was so excited. That's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's a follow-up to a game I really enjoyed. You know, I was not a Final Fantasy VII fan going into the original Final Fantasy VII Remake. I had never played it before, which I came to find out was a maybe not the intended method, but that's fine. I was just excited to find out what happens next in the story. But moreover than that, I was just really impressed with how much the game evolved over the first one. I was not expecting it to change as much as it did. The open world design, while kind of basic, I think does add a lot to the experience. It does feel like you're traversing the map from the original Final Fantasy VII in a more conventional way, a more modern way. There's a lot of side quests and mini games, and the game can get weird and kind of unapologetic, and I appreciate that about it. I just wanted to kind of do everything, and I don't know that I could recommend that to everyone, because everything is a lot, and a lot of it is kind of copy-paste. There's, you know, you got those Ubisoft towers. They're there. But still, I found myself really enjoying it. All the characters have unique combat and gameplay, and switching between them is just as enjoyable and engaging to me as it was in the original game. I think the combat system is one of the most impressive things about the remake game so far, is how they capture the essence of the original while evolving into something new. So once again, this is coming from the perspective of somebody who did not play Final Fantasy VII before engaging with this first.
Nice.
So I'm kind of coming in this with a different perspective than I think a lot of people. So for me, this is a really exciting thing, and it was a game that I could not pull myself away from. I just needed to see it through, and I enjoyed pretty much the entire experience. But I know you weren't as hot on the original remake, so I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I don't want to be a hater, because I haven't actually played this yet. I've been waiting. Because, as you say, I didn't like Remake Part 1 very much. I enjoyed the base gameplay. I like the combat. I don't want to linger on this too long. It's the pacing stuff I didn't love. So I've been waiting out for a price drop, because I'm not guaranteed to love this one. But I will play it before year's end to fully evaluate whether it's worth Game of the Year in my eyes. Because this might change things. Because Part 1's disdain for me is basically the pacing. I didn't love how slowly it moved, and I think getting out of Midgar might change that. So, yeah, as someone who hasn't played it, I don't want to take the airtime for too long, but I'm going to give it a try soon, especially because everyone's talking so highly of it, both you and live audience down there. So I will play it before year's end, but right now, no opinion.
I am curious what you'll think. I think there are changes to pacing that I think you'll appreciate. Because getting from event to event, and when I say event, I mean the things you expect from Final Fantasy VII, I think that's quite a bit faster. The open area design, you can engage with as much or as little as you want. The game does not really force any of that upon you. So, yeah, I'm curious what you'll think. I hope you enjoy it, but if you don't, honestly, I totally get it, because, I could see this game not clicking with everyone. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy it, and, we'll see what happens. But what is your number one?
Well, my number one, you spoke of Ubisoft design earlier, and I didn't think a Ubisoft game would ever make it to my Game of the Years. You're making faces? Is this maybe yours too?
I'm trying to trying to figure out what it is.
Okay, all right. So I like legacy Ubisoft. I love Rayman. I love Prince of Persia. And so when Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown came along, I was in awe. This is one of the best Metroid-like games I think I've ever played. It is a wonderful, wonderful game that not only takes a established genre and puts Prince of Persia into it, but also grows upon the genre. There's so many great ideas that I hope a lot of Metroidvanias take from here on. One really cool one is you can just take a screenshot and it goes on your map. So you can take a screenshot of where that is on the map and see exactly what's in there. It's
that's cool.
It's really cool, right? If there's a door that you can't quite open yet, which is obviously needing an item that's later in the game, you can go on your map, take a screenshot of it, and it will just be on your map there. And you can then come back to that later and remember exactly where that is. It grows Metroid as a genre in a really cool way. There's great power-ups. I love how it goes into what Prince of Persia is in the first place, with lots of spinning spikes and things. It feels like a Prince of Persia first and foremost, but it goes far more high octane than the series has ever really been before. And it's just an excellent flow. It's pretty long for a Metroid game too. It's 20 hours, but there's lots of side stuff to make it even longer. But even with it being fairly long, it's breezy. It's constantly doing something new and taking you to a new place. And I think this has grown to being one of my favorite games in the Metroid genre. And it came from modern Ubisoft, of all people. But yeah, this is a wonderful game.
I'm really glad to hear that. This is a game that I played the demo for. I think it just launched at a bad time for me specifically. I don't remember if there was something else out at the same time or if I was just busy or whatever. But this is a game I fully intend to play. I really enjoyed the demo. There's a level of action there that I'm not used to in a Metroidvania. That was really enticing and exciting. So I'm excited to engage more with it. I'm just happy that this game exists, man. for Prince of Persia fans and for side-scroller fans. You don't get games like this very often.
No, and as Live Audience says, it was done by the Rayman Origins and Legends team. So it's the best part of Ubisoft. And Prince of Persia's had a bit of a resurgence. Sands of Time remake exists somewhere in the ether, but there's also that rogue Prince of Persia, which I'm waiting to fully release and to give it a full shot. But I'm glad it's out there. But this one is just so slick, and it's obvious that they took lessons from Mercury's Steam. There's a lot of Samus Returns and Dread design put into Lost Crown. So they're getting the best influences, and I kind of hope that it also influences Metroid, because there's lots of great ideas that Metroid 6 or whatever can borrow from Lost Crown. It's just a very innovative game, and one that will stick with me for a long time.
I think my number one will also stick with me for a long time, and it's so funny that yours is a Metroidvania, because mine is too.
I know what it is, okay?
My current game of the year is Animal Well.
Cool pick.
What an absolutely incredible gaming experience. I talked about this earlier in this discussion. Don't call it the Donkey game. It's Donkey didn't make the game.
Donkey published, yeah.
He published the game, but he didn't make it. Animal Well does so many things that I absolutely love. It is the kind of game that directly speaks to me. A couple of games that I mentioned in my recent video, like Outer Wilds and Return of the Obra Dinn, are games where they are asking a lot of the player. A lot of critical thinking, a lot of outside-the-box thinking, and Animal Well is exactly the same. You can start Animal Well, and it is very much just a, Metroidvania. There's no combat. You're searching through the world, trying to find power-ups to progress the game forward. But the well goes so much deeper than that, so to speak. The game does not reveal its hand to you. That is something you have to discover for yourself. And it goes further and further and further than you ever think it will. And just that sense of discovery and kind of putting together this cryptic puzzle that the game is hiding from you is so satisfying. When I wasn't playing Animal Well, I was thinking about it, because there were questions I was having. There were mysteries I hadn't solved, and I was trying to figure them out even when I wasn't playing the game. And that's something that's going to stick with me absolutely forever. And that's not even talking about the beautiful visual style. Just very, lo-fi look. It's very understated, but it's so striking. Daniel showed this on his Twitter, and this is available in every version of the game, but you can sway the grass in the game by either touching on the Switch touchscreen, using the touchpad on the PlayStation. It's so cool.
The coolest one is Windows, where if it's in a windowed mode, you just shake the window. I've never seen that in a PC game before.
It's... I have so much praise for the developer of this game, because it is clearly a labor of love. Yeah. So much thought was put into it. The closest game that I can compare it to that I also loved is Tunic.
Sure.
Tunic is another game that goes as deep as you want it to. The further you dig, the more you find. And there's nothing quite like that experience to me. It is something that will stick with me literally for the rest of my life.
It's a polar opposite to Lost Crown. Like, Lost Crown is a very combat-heavy Metroidvania, whereas this one, it's incredibly unique, where, I think it's kind of a pillar of the genre, right? Like, combat may not be the basis of what a Metroidvania is, but combat is both a puzzle and also utility, but Animal Well doesn't really have it at all. And it's super interesting to see how it gets around that in its design. And there really is nothing else like it. And going through both of our lists, the only thing we shared, I think, was the Elden Ring DLC. But every game you mentioned, or pretty much every single game you mentioned, I haven't played all of them, I was like, yes, I agree with that. Because I've played the bulk of what you have, and I would put that stuff on my list. But there's just too many other great things that I love too. It's just been such a cool year already, and we haven't seen all of it yet. Nintendo weren't mentioned at all in this video, despite there being a lot of Switch games. And we've got stuff like Mario and Luigi coming up, which will probably be a contender. What a great year for variety. There's lots of big franchises out there, but lots of new ones, like Unicorn Overlord and Animal Well. It's so welcoming to... Oh, we did mention Thousand Year Door, you're correct. But in terms of the bulk of it, it's been such a different year for variety, and we're all winning. We're all winning no matter what genre you like. There's so much to play right now.
Yeah, the fact that I struggled this hard to come up with a top 5, like we were originally going to do top 3, we expanded to 5, and it was hard. Like there are games that I want to have their moment, and it was tough to really truncate that. Like I was going to put Super Monkey Ball on my list, and I'm not even halfway through the game yet. Like, and I figured that you were going to have it pretty high, so I was like, I'll just leave it off. I'll let John talk about it.
But no, I've had a really good time talking about this, and I can't wait to do it again in 5 months now, as we're in July.
Yeah.
And there's some comments right now. We didn't talk about the poker game that's taken the world by storm, and it's one I haven't played yet. So by the time we're not just going to play new releases. We're going to catch up on stuff by the time the year ends too. So that is one for sure that's on my list. I don't know if you've played it, Brandon.
I have played Balatro. I have not played enough of it to consider it. Kind of the same way with like Super Monkey Ball. Super addictive though. It's a hard game to put down.
Before we end up, we actually have another person in the panel. He may not be visible, but his words are here. So, Brandon, take the voice of Daniel.
Okay. I'm just gonna read it, Daniel. I'm not gonna do that to you. I thought about this to myself for a while, and in the end, I determined that my midterm game of the year for 2024 is Persona 3 Reload. It's weird to put a remake at the top of a list like this. Is it weird to put a remake at the top of a list like this? Funny enough, I thought Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door would be at the top before I played it, but Reload does so many things fundamentally different from all of its other versions that it's practically a new game. There's quality of life improvements, more events to pad out the days between the full moon bosses, and overall, it's the best looking Persona game in the series. Tartarus, the most divisive aspect of the original, somehow became one of the least complained about things when I saw people discussing it. We're in an era of games where roguelikes and randomly generated floors of a dungeon are much more commonplace, and Persona 3 Reload leaned just enough in that direction with modern features to fit right in. I think it's just a very smartly designed remake that takes lessons from previous Persona games and continues to expand upon them under a familiar setting. And we still have DLC coming up with episode Aegis. I hope I said that right.
You did, yeah.
I guess.
What does the Aegis even mean?
I hope that will keep the game on people's radars as we approach the end of 2024. End quote, Daniel Alba, 2024.
That's a cool pick. It's interesting with Reload because Persona 5 came out on the PlayStation 3 in like 2016 in Japan. And it's been a long time since a new Persona, and this is kind of it. Like, it may be a remake, but it's the first original one in like 8 years? Is that how long ago 2016 was? Maybe.
I mean, Persona 5 came out on the PS3, so it's been a while.
It's been a long time. So it's a big jump for Persona, both in terms of visual fidelity and gameplay evolutions. It's a cool pick. I think if I didn't feel as strongly about my other games, that would be on my list too.
And you all know me, Persona is something I've been vocal about, trying to like find the right game for me. Right now, I think I'm looking, it's not Persona, but I'm looking at Metaphor. I think
yes.
I'm going to really give that one a shot, and I think that might be the one that does it. I really hope so.
I'd be shocked if that's not on my list. That looks, it's ticking all the boxes. I can't wait for that game. But anyway, everybody, live audience, here's something you've never heard before. Before we wrap up, why don't you just throw out your favorite game this year, flood that live audience box, and everyone can see what your favorite games were in 2024, and we will wrap up from there. But if you want to join that little box down there, you can. For just $5 a month, you can join the live audience Patreon tier, where you can watch all of our discussions as they happen live. You also get little perks like having to contribute. You don't have to. You can contribute to the GVG cast. You can join other tiers where you can actually get video requests from us and play with us, and so much more. But more than that, it just supports us to do what we can on the channel and make cool stuff for everybody. So if you want to support us to get those perks, you can. If you just want to support us, you can do that too. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in like 5 months' time for the full 2024 Game of the Year discussion, where we've played even more with games that both exist now and do not exist. Do you have any words before we leave, Brandon?
Play video games. Just have a good time.
Play video games. Just have a good time. See you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Brandon. Should I start like that?
Even if you don't, that's going in the video.